Hi everyone, this is Shauna Charosa, RAYAC's Executive Officer, and this is my desk. In the monthly video cast, I go over questions that are coming across my desk every single day so we can have much smoother real estate transactions here in York and Adams counties. So the question that I have today is, how can I find out if the permits were pulled on a property in York County? So that's a great question. So many of you know that in the seller's property disclosure form, there is a section in regards to improvements on the property. And one of the questions is whether or not permits were pulled. And a lot of times the owner of the property is selecting unknown. So how can you determine whether or not those permits were pulled? Well, I'm here to tell you that the York County Tax Assessment Office makes that very easy for you. So they have a parcel viewer where you can search for properties for absolutely free in York County. And once you look up that property, it has a permitting section and you can click on there and you can see the list of all of the permits that were pulled on the property right there and verify whether or not that work had a permit done for it. So what if the permit is not there and there was improvements done on the property and there was no permit pulled? Well, you know, many municipalities don't require permits for a certain amount of work. Most of them do at this point, but some of them do not. So potentially, you know, the homeowner didn't do anything that they shouldn't have done. But what it does impact is if there were improvements on the property and a permit was not pulled and you're not seeing that improvement was reflected in the York County tax assessment record, that could impact the assessed value of the property that the new buyers have just purchased. So what should you know about this? So the York County Tax Assessment Office has been since 2023, so it's been going on for over 2 years at this point. They have been verifying the sales information of the properties. So if they notice that there has been improvements on the property versus what they have listed in the tax record on the property, they're going to make corrections on that tax card to reflect the improvements that were done on the property. So for example, if there was a basement that was finished on the property and you're not seeing that the tax card has a basement, a finished basement reflected on the tax card, or you're not seeing that there was a permit pulled for the finished basement on the property, then most likely the assessed value of that property will go up once the York County Tax Assessment Office corrects their record to show that there is a fully finished basement in that property. And this is information that you would want to share with your buyers when they're purchasing that property, because potentially the taxes that they're currently paying on the property may go up because the tax card has now been corrected to show the actual improvements that were made on the property. So after a buyer purchases a property, if they receive any notification from the York County Tax Assessment Office, be sure not to ignore that. They want to make sure they open that, read that information. They do have the opportunity to appeal that correction on the property if they believe that there was a miscorrection made on the property, and take that information to the York County Tax Assessment Office. So RAYAC did do a video about this verification of the sales and the correction of the tax record. We released that in November of 2023. I'm going to put a link to that video that goes into more detail there about that process. And I'm also going to put a link to where you can go to search for the properties in York County off of the assessment website and find out information like whether or not permits were pulled on the property, and if so, when those permits were pulled. So I hope you find that information helpful to you. If there is ever any questions you would like for me to cover in this video cast, please feel free to reach out to me, because my doors and ears are always open to you. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.